welcome everybody. Happy Ergoversary. I'm here with Alex, and yeah, we wanted
Hi
to
everyone.
discuss kind of the state of the state and some potential ideas moving forward that we think are pretty interesting for the community, for miners, and I guess for the world in general. We've said, many of you have heard Alex say for, I don't know, a couple of years that the world needs better money, it needs better collateral, and we're kind of still stuck in this cycle of spiraling debt that's growing exponentially across the globe. Inflation is always rampant in certain areas, and that declines kind of the economic purchasing power of people across the world. And you also have this vector of economic freedom and freedom from surveillance is becoming more of a, let's say, history rather than a bright future. So definitely there are issues that hopefully we can create tools to address kind of the, I don't know, economic freedom and prosperity of humans around the world. That's what open money is about. And, Ergo is kind of this open source project that explores these ideas and tries to implement solutions. So, Alex, how are you doing?
Doing well, doing well. So yeah, complex environment I have. So actually, yeah, a lot of quite positive developments, right? Recognition of the need of digital stable coins, right? Even in centralized form. Digital gold is going into different reserves, but yeah, I mean it's also done not very properly usually, right? So, I mean a lot of positive motivation maybe and some positive moments, but also a lot of things done not quite properly. So yeah, there is a lot of work
Yeah, ideas
in all the
ideas can be
directions.
wonderful, but execution is always the hard part, right? And then
Right. Yeah, exactly.
proper execution where, the devil's in the details and you understand the trade-offs that you're let's say building into. So, I've heard a bit about this idea of better money. I wanted to have you introduce that to the community and kind of share your thoughts on, let's say, this idea of chain cash and building better money for the world. What does that look like to you?
Right. So actually, a lot of ideas, right, which can be found in different forms on the forum, and yeah, so some white papers, and now there is ongoing effort on getting Ergo book done. What do we have now is kind of good base money, so proof of work assets, right, such as Ergo or Bitcoin, Monero. Some assets which can be good and also widely used, such as real world assets, right? The biggest one is USDT, which is tokenized treasury, basically, right, of some private company.
Hmm.
To their company, yeah. So the reserves made of different financial tools, right? So it's actually the biggest RWA. But people are trying to tokenize also commodities. Real estate and whatever, right, to build then financial tools on top of, right. So in case of USDC and other centralized stable coins, tokenized private treasuries. Yeah, it's quite more straightforward, right? So we already see a lot of so-called DeFi tooling, right? Well, which is not maybe so decentralized if it's based on some more private entities, right? Reserves based on trust to the said entity.
Yeah. And then that,
Anyway.
yeah, I would say that that does tend to be a really interesting thing that we're seeing in the space is like as this idea of onboarding real world assets kind of increases, we're seeing a really broad spectrum of like reserve assumptions, right? You know,
Right.
maybe updated once a month. You know, we're still kind of in like this paper accounting world that kind of digital money has this ability to disrupt, but you know, who knows? Then you also have kind of, let's say, less, let's say, clear assumptions around certain reserves where you can't like directly or independently verify them. Some of them haven't been audited. It's somewhat of a mixed bag in the space, if you ask me.
Right. Yeah, well, among us, right? Some, well, core Ergonauts. Uh, many efforts done on, yeah, for formalizing trust issues, right? Via KYC initiative, for example, and then build better tools such as Chain Cash, which is basically a foundation for digital free banking, blockchain based. Also, and yeah, building also, well, trustless derivatives, algorithmic stable coins, and more. Right. Bruno, for example, presented a lot of schemes and continuing to do that. Uh, there are high-level schemes to ensure, for example, risks of non-delivery of physical commodities, right, with algorithmic stable coins and so on. Yeah, well, a lot of theoretical schemes, and now I think there is need to push for practical adoption. That's why we are starting, Better Money initiative to push all those things for the real world. We are already connected with different entities such as private companies, uh, well, and even entities like some African uh, nations interested already experimenting with tokenization and having need for things like project funding, right, for small cooperatives and so on. So yeah, actually a lot of demand, right, for better funding around many areas around the globe, better funding, better money, right? Then, in case of, for a site cooperatives producing something, there is a big question. How to sell, right, and how to buy. There is need for better kinds of money for international trading and so on. So yeah, a lot of requests.
Hmm.
Right. So, yeah, well, it is still shaping how well it will be done in regards with structuring, funding, and so on. But yeah, nevertheless, so all the principles are set, and well, the mission, I think, is more or less clear.
Hmm. Yeah, I would agree. Building kind of open source frameworks that don't, let's say, capture people as much as traditional finance has a tendency to, right?
Right. So, yeah, well, there are areas where you simply don't have traditional finance, right? And so Lebanon, for example, 2 years ago when I visited it, and I'm pretty sure, well, since back then the situation is no better, maybe worse. Right, and then yeah, many places in Africa, Latin America, and so on, and yeah, well, a lot of places with hyperinflation and high interest rates and so on. So, yeah, well, big demand, right, for better monetary solutions,
Yeah.
funding solutions, and so on.
So beyond that, how how are we looking with Subblocks and kind of your latest work? What are you working on these days?
So just doing final sync for 6.0 to propose it to miners. So at the moment of releasing this video, probably well the miners probably would update nodes already and set voting configuration in the setting files. Then yes, Subblocks, which is actually another well a point of interest, right? In regards with better money. So it's also about high performance proof of work protocols,
Hmm.
right? And better proof of work protocols. There are a lot of hot discussions these days about proof of useful work. And then, yeah, well, high performance proof of work protocols, because, yeah, since the merge, Ethereum merge, it's quite clear that proof of work protocols are no worse, at least, than proof of stake in regards with efficiency, right?
Hmm.
So there was a myth that proof of stake is more performant for some reason, which was debunked before the merge. Uh, I think, but largely ignored. So now it's quite clear that proof of work, well, protocols are actually more efficient, right? Because less overhead for agreements. Basically, every miner is working on its own. There is no any communication needed for consensus except of propagating new blocks found, right, with already valid solution in most cases if it's not a forked block. And yeah, even if it's forked, then yeah, many protocols is accounting for such blocks somehow. But anyway, so it's totally synchronous and most performant kind of consensus, and then there are different approaches, right? How to achieve concrete efficiency, not just asymptotic. How to get more even spreads on a peer-to-peer layer, right, among the blocks. And here is we have Subblocks in Ergo, right? And well, there are similar proposals in other blockchains, for example, Tailstorm in Bitcoin Cash. But yeah, well, it's not quite clear when it will be deployed. So yeah, here we still have privilege to deploy things without, spending years on like resolving
Yeah.
some debates in the community. But yeah, well, this time is limited, by the way. So with growth of community, we will get to the same state.
Sure.
Obviously. So yeah, it's better to do well all the things like that now. But yeah, I mean they also non-controversial.
Hmm.
I mean in comparison with other options. So it's kind of pretty soft kind of soft fork, right?
Yeah.
In regards with activation, it seems to be. But anyway, so yeah, well, after 6.0 and Subblocks, let's see what's would be next upgrades for the core protocol. I think it would be dependent on sidechains implementations and so on.
Hmm.
And probably, yeah, would be about, well, maybe taking the best ideas from experiments done there, right? And also supporting sidechain, but also, well, it's not crystal clear at the moment, right? What could be that be about, and then yeah, let's see. But hopefully, it would be about pretty soft forks anyway, right? So
Hmm.
gradual updates without breaking applications, without splitting community and so on.
Yeah, the
Like
backwards compatibility is
we
quite important.
witnessed. Yeah, so on every hard fork, it's quite ordinary to lose some part of community.
Hmm.
So when I used to be NXT co-developer, so yeah, well, basically the community disappeared after a few hard forks pushed by the main dev JLP, and a few forks costs quite brutal even disagreements in the community and so splits.
Hmm. Yeah, a lot of it.
Right. And yeah, even in Bitcoin, right, without any hard forks. So that block size civil war actually cost some forks to appear, such as Bitcoin Cash
Hmm.
and more. So like, yeah, few new kinds of Bitcoin appeared. And yeah, we can expect more because yeah, now they have talks about demo rush and things like that, right? So we may expect maybe
Hmm.
some more forks to
No,
be
that
appeared around that.
that kind of leads into the Sigma chains idea. In terms of like the Bitcoin protocol itself, one of the more interesting ideas floating around, in my opinion, has always been drive chains, right? Where, it seems like the most practical way to like increase the miner revenue of the protocol from kind of sidechain activity and uh, kind of reduce their, let's say, economic reliance on the block subsidies without needing to touch, um, let's say Demirage or the cap or some of the other more controversial proposals for like extending the security model and I guess potentially open up like some avenue for like innovation and expansion on top of the protocol, which right now, you have all of these different Bitcoin layers and you have some, I guess more or less interesting designs in terms of like trustless relays on top of Bitcoin, or you have something like Rosen. But kind of this idea of, let's say, merge mined drive chains, I've always thought was the most practical, like long-term path to, I don't know, let's say sustainability and security for Bitcoin itself. And merge mining is pretty interesting to watch. We see that in the ASIC world on script miners with Litecoin, Dogecoin. We're starting to see that show up in kind of the CPU space with Monero, and then different merged mine projects that are kind of creating additional revenue streams on top of that security. And so I do think that there's a big benefit to pulling that into the GPU space and potentially, hardening Ergo long term and opening up the same potential path for sustainability of security and innovation, and also some interesting trustless interoperability that actually does. I would say is probably the cleanest way to get chains to communicate. It's just a more complicated method than what we see around. What are your thoughts on that general idea or uh, direction?
Uh, right. So yeah, I think matched mine sidechains could provide well significant uh, revenue boost, right, for miners. It is especially clearly seen in Litecoin, right? So when I visited some conferences, I witnessed some ASICs advertisements promoting some script ASICs as Dogecoin and Litecoin, right? So the Dogecoin put in the first place, but it's a matched mine sidechain of Litecoin just so. Yeah, Litecoin is number two, right? The main chain. And yeah, the side chain is number one. So it's not so clear in Bitcoin, but yeah, there are a lot of matched mine side chains. Maybe not so many, right? But there are a few more or less thriving well with own communities, even and ecosystems, matched mine side chains. And recently, some started to appear around Monero, done by Tari Labs, and there is upcoming matched mine sidechain with private contracts, which is DarkFi, right? And so, yeah, I think it's time to work on such things for Ergo, right, to provide, additional income for miners, and also to, create more liquidity, right, and also to play with new ideas, right, without touching the main chain,
Mhm.
which is quite stable, and I think it's actually stable for good, right? So and still there is a lot of unlocked potential, right?
Mhm.
There in the Ergo and its contractual layer and block structure and so on. And there is some unlocked potential in regards with sidechains also, especially matched mine sidechains. So as shown in my submission for ErgoHack 8, there is possibility to have trustless two-way pack, right?
Mhm.
Just using some contracts on Ergo, and some actually quite small additions to the Matched mine sidechain, and then yeah, we can actually do very different and interesting things there. So what I'm thinking about is to create some double matched mine sidechain. So Bitcoin and Ergo matched mined, right, with kind of ordering blocks, right, to be written on the Bitcoin blockchain and input blocks on the Ergo blockchain. Right, and then yeah, so with the double commitments on both blockchains, there is also possibility to yeah, do somewhat DeFi, right, for Bitcoin with yeah, well, quite trustless transfers, right?
Hmm.
Well, with minimum trust assumptions. Then, yeah, well, those ideas of drive chains, so BIP, well, 300, 301 would be helpful. But yeah, we can go without them even.
Hmm.
So, I mean, that they would be helpful for better pack on, for Bitcoin. But here we can have also we can adopt some well techniques well others already working on, and then yeah, reusing Ergo applications, and yeah, also having trustless pack with Ergo blockchain, right? And then there could be different ideas tried also, and so on. So there are also other vectors which can be tried. So, for example, we may have some privacy-oriented matched mine sidechains, right? So recently, well, I started to dig into Zephyr, which is Jet.
Hmm.
Well, protocol done on top of some fork of Monero, but yeah, it seems well, you can do better, right? So you can have a matched mine sidechain with a variety of stablecoin protocol, even right, or with one stablecoin protocol somehow. But yeah, you need to limit it somehow with better oracles, because yeah, in case of Zephyr, it seems it's just centralized oracle, and here you can do oracle pools. But then you may have private transfers, right? Just using well, Ergo Mixer, or adding also private amounts, right? So using more complicated cryptography, even FCMP from the upcoming Monero updates for full chain membership proofs and so on.
Hmm.
So you can do DarkFi based sidechain, right? So have private contracts for Ergs, right? So well, with some possibility, right, to move transparent Ergs to the side chain, right, and then yeah, use them in dark contours. So yeah, well, possibilities are quite unlimited.
Yeah, it opens up a lot of space for developers to play, and underneath the network, it, creates new, increased revenue for miners potentially, which is always good for the security of a proof of work network, right?
Yeah, for Ergo miners, but then yeah, well, it could be interested to Bitcoin miners as well, right? If it's about double matched mine sidechain,
Hmm.
there could be more options. For example, making matched mine sidechain of Ergo, which is also a partner chain of Cardano, right? So,
Yeah.
like two kinds of blocks validated by Ergo miners as well as Cardano validators. And so on, yeah. So also, well, with the goal of trustless interoperability, and yeah, in case of Cardano, it would be even simpler to make it closer to be fully trustless.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of, let's
Oh,
say, green areas there to explore. I think that putting together some base tooling and some EIPs around, let's say, the implementation of merged mining, yeah, opens up a lot of green space for, quite a while, which would be great to see.
right. Then, yeah, there is the idea of dedicated Sigma chains, right? So, well, it's about not much mine side chains, but yeah, well, chains with dedicated proof of work,
Mhm.
with the idea to tame different classes of hardware and so on, right? Which also does make sense because, well, currently there is a lot of untamed computing power, I believe, right,
Yeah,
in
there's
form of ASICs.
even if you go onto like what to mine, there are constantly new chains that I don't know what they offer, but there people like to spec mine stuff that pops up. So there's obviously hardware demand sitting around there that's trying to find a home that's, somewhere to park and hopefully be profitable in the long term, which is always its own challenge and proof of work, I guess. But I definitely think the capacity is growing. So the demand is there if there's kind of the economic let's say utility for directing that cold capacity somewhere. I do think proof of work is great at absorbing excess capacity. That's kind of its superpower, I guess.
Yeah, so yeah, a lot of untamed computing power, yeah, in ASICs and GPUs, right? And there will be more GPUs soon to be outdated, now used for AI, but then, yeah, well, that there is need to tame the power. CPUs, some classes of CPUs probably not so well suitable for Monero mining and so on. So yeah, well, a lot of possibilities here. And well, yeah, instead of launching some new blockchain like another fork of Bitcoin with some
Hmm.
well features which are not needed, or what people are also doing, some fork of Caspa. Right, it was
Hmm.
quite popular like 1 year ago to launch some forks of Caspa, and so on. So yeah, it would be better to launch some well Ergo similar Sigma chain, right? With the idea to get Rails with Ergo, right? And then Rosenbridge since day one, so liquidity with all the chains, liquidity pools on Ethereum, uh, Ergo, Binance Smart Chain, Cardano, and so on. Um, and then yeah, also applications. Right, and then yeah, you can do some experiments you want to do well in addition to a new kind of consensus like taming new hardware. Yeah, you can also do something on the application layer. And yeah, so I think merged mine sidechains is the low-hanging fruit, right? And
Hmm.
well, from them it will be quite clear how to extend the contractual layer in easiest way to introduce new features, new context, and so on.
Yeah.
Right, maybe new Sigma protocols such as we now have some generalized Sigma protocols suitable for much more powerful things. But yeah, maybe not so maybe not so efficient as what do we have in Ergo. I mean, they're heavier, but they're doing much more also. So, yeah, I mean, for concrete applications, it would be good to provide ways for developers to play with new features and um, to open possibilities, right, to experiment in those areas now inaccessible, right, with other blockchains. So, well, you cannot easily play with applications of some newer Sigma protocols, for example, by using KVM, right? But yeah, here in Sigma contractual layer, it's more or less straightforward.
Yeah, I do think that that long term opens up a lot of, I don't know, green area. I'm excited. I think that's more or less the point of building kind of these open source contractual layers, open source applications. You know, some, I don't know, you watch like a sci-fi movie, right? You always see people kind of interacting with money on different devices, having different energy inputs, different consensus models that are all uh, more or less interoperable, right? And so,
Right.
to do that on top of clear security stacks is really fascinating to consider long term.
Right. So yeah, and it would be also quite eco-friendly, right, to utilize outdated hardware for producing, well, money, basically producing commodities, right? It's I think much better than, for example, I don't know, wasting huge pieces of land to extract gold, right, and
Mhm.
other metals, other commodities. Then, yeah, well, then we have a lot of tooling on upper levels, such as chain cache, right, and other tools in addition to just non DeFi tooling, which is also there,
Mhm.
right? Like traditional DeFi tooling, such as LP, liquidity pools, LPs, and yeah, auctions, uh, lending pools, bonds, and so on, right? So what do you have on Ergo? So it's also uh, well valuable, right? So
Mhm.
just imagine if you can run some merged mine sidechain, right, with sharing liquidity with the main Ergo chain since day one, with Rosen bridges, and then yeah, with some new features developers would like to experiment with, and yeah, with all those applications. So. Yeah, and with liquidity being created naturally, right, from block to block, gradually unlocked. So it's not about launching, I don't know, memes or RAC tokens, where owners of the token can dump
Yeah.
uh, making price going down like minus 90% in 1 hour, like happened recently a few times with different VC racks. So yeah, well, it's much more natural story, right? And also beneficial to Ergo miners and to the Ergo ecosystem because of more liquidity, right, going here and there to a side chain or back to the main chain. So yeah, well, quite exciting, I
Yeah.
think,
I think
environment.
there's a, more or less clear path towards that future, which is exciting. Sometimes in I don't know, the cryptocurrency space. I think that like narratives consume reality, but they are sometimes not even based in reality. And having like a clear engineering path towards like I guess how to put this together and what the benefits are, pretty more or less like clear and straightforward, which is always a little bit more useful than kind of the uh, narratives that sometimes we hear around. You know, this ability to build like an open source financial operating system or application stack and then make it portable across let's say different chains or value inputs and that can all trustlessly talk to each other is a powerful goal long term, I think. And
Right, yeah.
especially if it's more, I don't know, clear from like pre-centralization, which is what we're seeing more and more and more in the space, in my opinion, instead of like decentralization. Things are kind of come to market pre-centralized and then are supposed to go through some path where power is distributed, but oftentimes they either oligarchies form or that initial people just leave and then do it again, right?
Yep. Yeah, that's how Memecoin clans are working, right? So often it's about few people. So they're launching meme coins one by one, and yeah, well, promoting this this nonsense, right? New meme coins, then rock, then yeah, and another guy from the clan is starting
Yeah.
another rock. So
Narrative
yeah,
consumed
I
reality is what I call it, rather than like having I don't know, clear
but
foundation
but
for a better reality.
yeah, at the same time, I see a huge request for fair distribution, right? After
Hmm.
all those rug pulls, yeah, well, I don't know, maybe it's my bubble, but yeah, my crypto Twitter is full of that,
Yeah, mine too. But
right?
I think we're in the same bubble. But I do think like
Yes,
if people take
but
narrative and then they repeat it until it like tries to become reality and then it's not reality. I think after enough rounds of experiencing that, it kind of disillusions people.
right, but yeah, I think there is trends indeed, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, well, when people observe those nasty rock pools, and yeah, it's not something unknown, right? So that the whole space is watching. So well, and then there is quite natural demand for fair distribution, right? And then yeah, I mean the problem of fair distribution, I believe, was solved back in 2009, right? And it's going
Hmm.
to work.
Yeah, no, I completely
It's
agree.
actually this problem uh this problem existed before Bitcoin, right? With first digital cash schemes,
Hmm.
like one done by Halfini, so it used proof of work but didn't have difficulty. And then yeah, well, Hell used some trusted hardware, so but yeah, without difficulty, still, yeah. So, well, the distribution was in hands of, I don't know, the developers able to optimize the miners, basically, right?
Yeah.
I forgotten the name. It was Arpo or something like that. Hashpo,
Hmm.
hash. Yeah, so some pre Bitcoin digital proof of work based currency, but yeah, without the Bitcoin emission schedule and the difficulty recalculation, right? It's also the much needed part. of the equation. So yeah, and then the problem was solved, right, among others by Satoshi, and then people somehow lost it again. And now having all those
I
nasty
think
things.
I think there's just a desire to replicate the success of Bitcoin, but personally maximize profit potential from it. Call it what it is. You know?
Uh, yeah, but yeah, I think actually, well, the ethos of Bitcoin is quite forgotten. So pe people are
No,
just launching digital tokens to grab some value from, well, big, bigger fools, basically.
no,
And
Bitcoin is
that's
taking
it.
on a life of its own these days, but I still think that like the initial I don't know, roots of having like fair distribution of money and permissionless, non-KYC, anonymous or pseudo-anonymous ability to participate in like a global network is still just as powerful as it was. Um, it's just, yeah, somewhat different. Let's just say that
Yeah, yeah. True.
is what it is.
All right. So, yeah, so I think this is direction which we are discussing for some time, right? Probably
Mhm.
for about 1 year, but yeah,
Yeah, 1 or 2 years we've been talking about this on the
now
side.
now it's the time to jump on implementations and
Yeah.
to motivate people to implement all those things.
But anyway, I think that's kind of the natural progression for most things that we've seen on Ergo is they've been an idea that's talked about, discussed, debated, refined for like a year offline, and then we finally get the bandwidth or like time, energy, resources to do something in that direction. So I think that's somewhat natural.
Yeah, but also, well, crystallization of ideas takes time.
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, then it's quite natural, right? So yeah, first there are discussions for many months, and then yeah, well, so some action. This is how it's going with Subblocks, right? Even so, it's been discussed since 2023, something like that.
Hmm.
But yeah, implementation is ongoing now, and yeah, it's quite good. So I think to the moment of releasing this video, there will be updated DevNet, and yeah, well, in somewhat July, we can think about injecting subblock supporting nodes into the public testnet. Let's see.
Let's see. Hopefully, everybody out there that's tuning in can throw some mining power towards the public test net when we get there. Yeah, it's just one of those things. We, sit and we try to build and we watch the, global debt increase at its own curve and inflation, pop its head all across the globe and kind of this increasing march towards less economic freedom, more economic surveillance. And I would say that sometimes the systems that I see pop up in the quote unquote cryptocurrency space actually support the increase of debt and kind of the absorption of like inflation and don't necessarily enhance freedom. Maybe they enhance like user experience, but on the surveillance side, it's a little sketchy. So hopefully, long term, we can build better money with better assumptions, and that contributes to a better world. That's kind of the net goal, yeah.
All right. So, yeah, stay tuned. A lot of news coming.
All right, everybody. Happy Ergoversary.
Happy anniversary.